Hi, and welcome to this tutorial on how to import and configure the Microsoft 365 self-service portal Power App. I assume you already read the blog post and downloaded the source files from GitHub. Here you can also find a step-by-step tutorial and some detailed information about this Power App. In this video, I will demonstrate how to import the app and make it work in your tenant. So before we start, we need to make Azure AD groups. So in this sample app, we have 12 features. So all the toggles are features and the slider has 3 features. So for each feature, we need one Azure AD group. So in total, we need 12 groups. So for the purpose of this demo, I already created 12 groups. And what we need to do is to capture the object ID of the groups. So we need this later on. So create 12 groups and capture the object ID before you go on. The next thing that we need is an app registration. So go ahead, click on app registrations and create a new one. So I will call this self-service. Click register. And the first thing that we need to do is to grant API permissions to the Microsoft Graph API. So we'll click add permissions. Here we pick Microsoft Graph. And for this demo, we need application permissions. We're going to search for directory because we need directory read all rights. And we also need group, and within group we pick the group read write all. So add those permissions, and after that grant admin consent for this tenant. So cool. The next thing that we need to do is create a secret. So let's go ahead and do that. Click new client secret. I call this Power Automate because that's where we're going to use it, and I'll leave this to the default of 6 months and then add. So I'm going to capture this value by copying it to the clipboard and store it in my notepad. This is only visible for a few minutes, so I assume you also do that, because otherwise you have to create a new one. So capture the value, and what we also need is go to the overview tab of this app registration and capture the application ID. So I'll do the same for that. Store it in my notepad, and the tenant ID, which is this one. So tenant ID. So I now captured the application / client ID, the tenant ID, and the secret that we just created. So that's all we need before we can continue. So let's hop over to the Power Apps portal. And here in our app section, we can click import Canvas app. So let's browse for this, for the source files that we downloaded from GitHub. Here it is. So it's now uploading the package. So let's give it a second. And once it is uploaded, it will show the details. So this here you can see the Power App itself, and then we got one flow that needs to import that needs to be imported. So it's going to be created as new. So when that's fine, click import. And like it says here, don't navigate away. Please wait it off. It will take a couple seconds before the app is imported into your environment. So now the package resources are successfully imported. So if we go back to the apps overview, we can see that the app is imported. But we're going to leave this for now because first we're going to edit our flow. So we go to the flow portal for Power Automate, and let's refresh. So let's do a refresh here. We should see the flow popping up. Here it is. As you can see, it is disabled, which is fine for now. So we're going to edit this. So click the edit button, and there are a few values that we need to adjust. So in the first place, the group ID. So we created 12 groups and we captured the group IDs. So we need to paste this in here. So I already prepared this. So I will cheat a little bit, but I will copy this to my clipboard and then replace it with my group IDs. So I will just delete this. And then enter my group ID. So those are my group IDs. So that's fine for now. So let's close this one. Then we need the tenant ID, which we captured before. So I'll copy that to my clipboard as well and just paste it in here. The client ID, or the application ID. Let's paste it in here. And last but not least, the secrets. So we also have the secret value, and let's paste it in here as well. So we edited the group IDs, the tenant ID, the client ID, and the secret, and now we can save it. Let's go back to the overview, and then we need to turn it on. So now the flow is enabled, and we added the value, so we are good to go. So now on to the Power App. We're going to click Edit, because we also need to adjust some few parameters here in the Power App itself. So let's wait for the application to load. There we go. And now we have to allow this Office 365 users connector, which we use. So we click Allow. So here we are. This is looking fine already, but we need to adjust a couple of things. So we click on App, and then we're going to look for the OnStart property. So here you can see a bunch of information. So let's expand this a little bit. The first thing that we need to do is we're going to enable the debug mode. So we're going to set this to true because we can check if the app is working fine. And the second thing that we need to do is scroll down a little bit, and here we're going to define all the groups. So the groups that we created earlier all have an object ID, and here we're going to define the features and then the corresponding group. So I already prepared this. So in your case, just replace all the object IDs for your own object IDs. And in my case, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to just do this. So now all my groups are aligned with my Azure AD groups. And that's basically it. So now we are able to save the application. So let's go ahead and do that. And then click publish. So let's publish this version. And go back to our overview. So let's go back. And now we're going to see this this application. So let's start it as this particular user. So click play, and now the app will launch. And we can see that the settings are actually saved because we can see this little debug icon here because we enabled the debug mode. So we are not currently member of any of the groups, so all the toggles are disabled, and also this slider is not showing any current channel. So let's go ahead and try to enable this toggle. So let's see what happens. Here's the spinner. It says it's adding me to the group. Then it's fetching group membership. That's great. So now here you can see a notification. Jan Bakker added to group SelfService 04. So that looks good. So let's try another one. Here we go. That's SelfService group 8. Awesome. Now let's test the slider as well. So let's set that to fast. Here we go. So now our current channel is fast. We're added to this group. We're added to that group. So we should be member of 3 groups by now. So let's go to the debug mode to check if that actually is true. So here we can see a collection of the current groups, and we can indeed see that the count is 3. We are a member of 3 groups. So that looks great. So basically this app is now working. So let's deselect it. And in the meanwhile, let's go to the Azure portal and let's see which group memberships my user has now. So we can just see that SelfService 3, and that represents the fast channel. And we also enabled this one, which is group 8, and we just deleted the group 4. So let's refresh and see if that is going on. So that's correct. 4 is now disappeared. So this user is only member of 3 and 8. So it works perfectly. So that's it. Go check GitHub for all the detailed information about this app, and well, be creative. Thanks.